Online holiday shopping isn't only convenient, but it also happens to open up a world of gift ideas, not to mention free shipping, right at your fingertips. Unfortunately, that means it also opens you up to a greater risk of cyber hacking. Clicking on one wrong link can instantly release your personal information to cyber criminals. Joining me to explain how it happens and what we can do to stay safe during online shopping is Matt Davis, Manager of Information Security at ESL. And welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So talk to me about, I'm curious as to what is the single most common threat that happens, especially during the holidays when people are perusing through apps and different websites searching for that perfect holiday gift.
Yeah, the most common threat that we typically see during this time of year is email phishing. And what that means is it's an email that comes through. It looks like it's a legitimate email, but it's trying to get you to perform an action or download a file or click a link. There's a lot of popular schemes that happen during the holidays with these emails, whether it be a sale that may seem too good to be true, a package that you may have shipped and it pretends that the package didn't make it to its recipient, or even gift cards to particular shows or stores you may be shopping at.
Wow, interesting. So in terms of the information that cyber criminals are looking for and how they use it, what do they want and why do they need it?
Yeah, there's two different types of information they're really looking for here. First is financial information. So this could be things like bank account information, credit cards, banking routing numbers, your account numbers. And this is going to help them make financial gain. That's generally their goal when they're dealing with this type of fraud. They're also looking for personal information about you. So name, address, social security number, things they could use to impersonate your identity with the end goal, again, being financial gain.
So let's dig into some proactive measures that people can take. I know they're watching, they're thinking, well, what can I do? I mean, I was preparing for this interview with you and I was getting a little worried myself, trying to buy different things online that I need to ship all over the place. So what can we do? What are some realistic things that we can do to help prevent something like this from happening?
Yeah, there's two main things, really educating yourself and remaining vigilant. And what do I mean by that? So education, knowing some of the things to look for when these fraudsters are coming after you. When you're looking at emails, for example, make sure you know the sender. Look for links in there, hover over the links and make sure that it's going to the place that you expect. If you're ever unsure, you can always call the retailer, whoever may be sending you the information in there. Also vigilant, so monitor your accounts, credit reports, credit card statements. Look for signs of fraudulent activity or things you don't recognize. The quicker you catch these things, the easier it is to recover from them.
So if I am at the airport, because I know one thing that I read about was just being careful in terms of tapping into public Wi-Fi. I had this conversation with my husband about this. So I'm at the airport, I'm traveling, and I realize I forget to buy something for Uncle Edward, and I want to save face, so I jump on airport Wi-Fi to make that purchase. Why is something like that maybe not such a great idea?
Yeah, so Wi-Fi like you would find at the airport, that's public Wi-Fi. So not only are you able to access it for your shopping needs, but potential fraudsters can get on there as well. Because they're on the same network then, it's easier for them to capture traffic. This traffic could contain personal information about you, bank information, credit cards, that sort of thing, and it kind of takes down that barrier of entry for them to get that information.
And then I know that you mentioned something when you are on websites. If you see a deal that's too good to be true, that you might want to pause. That might be a red flag. So what exactly does that mean, something that's too good to be true, and how can you determine whether or not a website is actually legitimate?
Yeah, so this is something we see around the holiday season a lot, whether it's going right to a website, if it's advertisements on a website, or an email. If it's a deal that seems very good and almost seems impossible, what we usually recommend is either calling up that retailer, verify with them, or close out of that website and just search for that retailer and go to that website independently and see if that comes up with that same deal on there, kind of get some independent verification.
So I know just because you make a purchase from a legitimate website, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are totally in the clear, because as you mentioned before, you can get an email after a purchase is made that has some information that may or may not be factual. So we stopped by ESL to see you earlier this week, and you actually walked us through this demonstration to show us exactly what you mean by that. So we'll take a look at this demo for our viewers so they can get a better understanding.
Often during the holiday seasons, we see an uptick in malicious or phishing emails that target individuals. What you see up on the screen here is an example of a popular tactic used during the holidays. Oftentimes, we send gifts to friends and family, and that's done via popular shipping services. The attackers know this, and they take advantage of it. Here's an example of a phishing email that an attacker used to target people during the holidays. You can see up at the top here that the subject says delivery notification refused by recipient. This makes it seem as if a package couldn't be delivered and one of our valuable gifts that we tried to ship didn't make it to its recipient. The goal of this is to try to get the recipient to click on one of the links contained within this email. However, there are some key things that we can look at in this email to show that it is not legitimate. First, if we look at the sending address up at the top here, we can see that it looks like it's coming from a customer service department of a popular shipping carrier. However, when we look more closely, it's coming from a domain called shippingupdate.net. This is not a popular shipping company that I'm aware of, and thus could indicate that this email is a phishing attempt. Next, as we scroll down, you're going to notice a company logo would have been up at the top here. If we hover over this, we're going to see a URL or a link where you could navigate on the web. When we look at the actual address you would navigate to, again, it's going to that suspicious shippingupdate.net, not a company address that we're familiar with. Moving down, there's a couple links also contained in this email. One is a tracking number referencing where the delivery was refused. If we hover over that link, again, we're presented with this suspicious web address that it's trying to get us to navigate to. You're going to notice the same thing down here on the account link. Again, you have that suspicious URL that it's trying to get us to follow. So overall, it's trying to take advantage of a typical activity that many consumers do during the holidays and trying to trick us into performing an action. In this case, it's clicking on a link. As we examine this links and we hover over here, we notice that suspicious domain. Typically what will happen if one was to click on these links will either be taken to a web page that's going to ask us to disclose confidential information. Could be things such as name, address, social security number, bank account information, things attackers could use to either steal our identities or make money off from us. The other possibility that this link could take us to is a website that contains a computer virus. Therefore, when you click on the link, your computer becomes infected, and then the attacker can take over your computer and use it to gather information on you or make money in other types of schemes.
So Matt, if I bought my mom a necklace, for example, for Christmas, and I send it to her, how are hackers able to track that purchase so much so that I get an email similar to the one that we just saw that says, hey, by the way, we're having some issues delivering this package, click on this link and you can see where it's going, or whatever the case may be. I guess at what point along the way can someone's information get compromised?
Yeah, so almost everything about us as individuals is out on the internet today, whether it be on social media or shopping sites or other just information gathering sites. So attackers can almost build a dossier on us as individuals and know our shopping habits, carriers we may use, and then they can use that to make these phishing schemes much more realistic.
So just in terms of before we close, are there any other popular holiday, cyber risks that we should be aware of that we have not mentioned yet?
Yeah, besides just the typical emails that you get, just pay attention to those advertisements that are out there on web pages. Just like the sales that come through email, these advertisements can try to get you to click through them and disclose information or download bad software to your computer. So be careful when you're browsing the web too.
And then those are the advertisements that I see them, they pop up on the right side of the screen when I'm searching for something.
Absolutely.
So those are the ones to really be careful of. Very good. All right, well, we are out of time, but Matt Davis, thank you so much for breaking this down for us and also for sharing tips on how to prevent cyber hacking, not only during the holidays, but this is relevant throughout the year as well. For more information, go to our website, wxxinews.org, and click on the Need to Know link.